Welcome to the Explainer. So today we are jumping right into the action with a real-life historical clash that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a fantasy novel. I mean, picture this: a 12th century sultan wielding the full might of his empire, declaring an impossible war on a literal mountain of stone. Okay, let's dive right into this incredible story. The year is 1196, and the man in charge is Al-Aziz Uthman. He's the Sultan of Egypt, and, the son of the legendary leader Saladin. For reasons of absolute grandiosity, Uthman decided he was just going to go ahead and demolish the iconic pyramids of Giza. And he figured his starting point would be the smallest of the main three, the Pyramid of Menkaure. As if that somehow made it an easy target, right? He recruited this massive workforce, armed them with the absolute best demolition tools of the medieval era, and ordered them to bring this ancient structure straight to the ground. Now, the sheer futility of this mission is just mind-boggling. These recruited workmen stayed at their grueling job for 8 agonizing months. I mean, imagine hacking away at a solid mountain in the blazing Egyptian heat for the better part of a year. Yet despite their vast numbers and relentless labor, the whole endeavor proved devastatingly slow and outrageously expensive. Just imagine the exhausting daily reality for these workers. Their process was incredibly primitive when you put it up against such a monolithic structure. They'd use wedges and levers to try and shift a single block, and then teams of men would haul on ropes just to pull it down. But guys, the nightmare didn't end there. Every single time a massive stone fell, it buried itself deep in the sand, so it required extraordinary effort just to free it. Then they had to laboriously split the stone into several pieces with wedges, load it onto a cart, and haul it to the foot of the escarpment, literally just to get it out of the way. Because of all this entire army of workers was only able to remove 1 or 2 stones a day, at most. So eventually, the Sultan had to concede defeat. Despite their immense, costly efforts, human hubris ultimately lost out to ancient engineering. When the dust settled, Uthman's army left behind nothing more than a large vertical scar, a visible gash on the pyramid's north face that you can actually still see today. Section 1. A fortress of granite. To really understand the massive scale of what those 12th century workers were up against, we gotta look at its sheer size. Even as the smallest of the 3 major Giza pyramids, we're talking about an original height of 65.5 meters. That's over 215 feet tall. Today it stands at 61 meters. And it wasn't just a pile of rocks. It was a solid, unyielding mountain constructed with this incredibly dense limestone core. And its lower section, heavily cased in insanely tough red granite brought all the way from Aswan. To truly grasp the muscle behind this ancient engineering, just look at the ridiculous weight of some of the local stone blocks used in the surrounding mortuary temple's walls. Archaeologist George Andrew Reisner actually estimated that some of these individual limestone blocks weighed as much as 220 tons. 220 tons! That provides a crystal clear picture of the mind-boggling scale of 4th Dynasty construction. And then add to that the imported Aswan granite ashlars, those massive fitted stones, used for the casing. The heaviest of these weighed more than 30 tons each. When you realize that the outer shell of this pyramid is literally made of massive granite blocks, weighing tens of thousands of pounds, it becomes perfectly clear why Uthman's levers and ropes were practically useless. Section 2. Lost Relics and Queens. So this timeline puts our entire story into perspective. We can chart the pyramid from its ancient origins and construction way back in the 26th century BC, right through that violent medieval demolition attempt, straight into the age of modern exploration, and finally, right up to modern-day controversy. Jumping over to the 19th century, specifically 1837, explorers Howard Weiss and John Shea Paring finally pierced the pyramid's inner defenses. And inside, they made this breathtaking discovery: Menkaure's beautiful, incredibly detailed black basalt sarcophagus, complete with a bold projecting cornice, like a decorative molding running along its edge. But in a totally tragic twist of fate, this priceless ancient relic never actually made it to its final destination. It was loaded onto a ship called the Beatrice to be transported to Great Britain. However, the Beatrice wrecked off the Spanish coast, and Menkaure's magnificent basalt sarcophagus sank straight to the bottom of the ocean, where it presumably still is today. Now, a wooden coffin lid with Menkaure's name didn't survive and made it to the British Museum, but the grand sarcophagus itself lost to the sea. And we really have to remember that Menkaure's pyramid wasn't just sitting out there completely isolated in the sand. It sat within a vast, active complex. Recent sediment cores show it was actually powered by a highly sophisticated Nile-connected harbor system that allowed these massive stones to reach the plateau in the first place. The complex featured a valley temple filled with highly detailed naturalistic statues of the king. And right next door to the main pyramid are 3 smaller ones, designated G3, A, B, and C. These were likely intended as tombs for his queens or half-sisters, or possibly even as chapels housing statues of the king. Section 3. Surviving the Modern Era. Now, the historical irony here is absolutely staggering. While the 12th century literally spent 8 months trying to violently strip the granite casing off the pyramid, a modern project launched in early 2024 aimed to do the exact opposite. Officials announced a 3-year plan to study, document, and carefully reinstall the fallen granite casing blocks scattered around the base, putting them back onto the pyramid's facade. Well, as you might guess, this modern plan sparked an immediate and fierce global backlash from researchers and Egyptologists. The academic community furiously argued that attempting to alter or, fix the ancient state of the pyramid was a terrible mistake. One critic actually famously called the plan as absurd as straightening the Tower of Pisa. The uproar was so intense that Egyptian officials ended up calling in a special team of experts, led by former Minister of Antiquities Zahi Hawass, to review the entire plan. The result? The committee unanimously objected to the reinstallation of the scattered blocks. So that highly ambitious restoration project was officially canceled just weeks after it was announced. Which brings us to the ultimate question you should really take away from this explainer today. We've seen a medieval sultan try to destroy it, and we've seen modern officials try to rebuild it. But when it comes to the scars of ancient history, is humanity's urge to alter these monuments, whether through demolition or restoration, something we just need to finally let go of? Perhaps Menkaure's greatest legacy isn't just its stones, but its enduring ability to stand exactly as history left it,